What's good, party people? This is Voodoo in the Woods, and we have a very special guest. And I usually do the announcements, but I'm according to Woods. He's Voodoo Maximus, and Voodoo. Who do we have with us?
Well, we've got none other than Robert Gung Fu Hooks Jr. in our midst. Oh, yeah. Celebrate, people. It's a blessing. Let's go.
Rob, it's so great to have you here. For people who watch and follow along with the podcast, Voodoo Maximus has brought you up countless times in terms of, essentially having fighters go beyond just being a great fighter, right? To offer up something else, a sizzle to the steak, if you will. And Voodoo has brought you up, and he's like, you're somebody who has basically preached that gospel from the jump.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Jump on.
absolutely.
Jump on.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, guys, first of all, let me just say it's a pleasure and an honor to be on your show. I love watching both of you. I have to say, between the two of y'all, some of the commentary that you provide is better than the stuff that you're going to see on ESPN or any of that stuff. You guys have some wonderful insights into the world of MMA, and it's just a pleasure for me to be here. So thank you for having me.
Oh, Mario Yamasaki's all the way, bro. Just saying. No, absolutely. But I mean, for obviously, people who have watched, they've heard Voodoo refer to you. But if you could you give us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I am a martial artist. I've been a martial artist since I was, I guess, 7 years old. I started. I got my black belt in Tang Soo Karate at the Tang Soo Karate Academy, and that's a Korean style, very that specialized. We did a lot of mind over matter stuff, and so and my mom is also a black belt, so she's the one who got me into it, and I've been in the martial arts ever since. I've always wanted to be a well-rounded guy, so that was primarily a striking art, and from there I went into to Aikido. I trained at the Tenshin Dojo, which was Steven Seagal's dojo in Hollywood also, and I trained under Sensei Matsuoka Haru, who's a amazing sensei, and so I've also trained under Robert Bussey, who's one of the star students of Dr. Masaki Hatsumi, who's the famous ninja. So I've been training since that time. I've also been fortunate to train in Shaolin Kung Fu, but pretty much I tried to cover striking, grappling, weapons, and then now I'm getting more into. Now I've founded my own program called Nonviolent Self-Protection (NSP), and that's really about pretty much what it says: nonviolent self-protection. So I'm really investigating the whole idea of stopping the cycle of violence, and that's something that I see that is missing in a lot of the martial arts world, and it's something that we need to really think about. And we see it in terms of, I mean, you just have to look at human nature. You look at Israel versus Palestine, or you take any kind of conflict, and the conflict doesn't get better if you just fight fire with fire. So there has to be some sort of, at some point, there has to be an end to the cycle of violence, and that's what I'm investigating right now with my practice.
I absolutely love it, and fighting fire with fire, or throwing money on top of a situation. What you trying to tell me that doesn't work? Right? We've been doing this since the beginning of man. What are you talking about? Come on, Rob. Like, we vote the people in that have our best interests at heart, and they're not essentially earning stock of things that they are essentially in charge of, right? They don't have that. None of that happens. What are you even talking about?
Crazy talk. I'm talking crazy talk. Woods, forget. You know what? Forget everything I just said. Voodoo, just forget it. I'm on one right now.
No, no, but I mean, and that's the thing, and I love that you use investigation because I think that is the formation of MMA as a whole, right? For those who are kind of linchpins for history. Obviously, the Gracie challenges, that led into the UFC and Horion Gracie, basically getting a bunch of pay-per-view people like the Art Navy and Campbell McLaren and everything like that. SEG involved. The UFC was essentially a infomercial just to buy Gracie challenge videotapes, essentially, right? And
Yep.
figuring out what
Which I
works.
did.
Did
Which
you?
I did.
Did
Yeah,
you?
I bought that was my introduction to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Was I actually went to the after I watched the second UFC. I said, Dad, I gotta go. I gotta find out. They blew my mind. Hoist Gracie blew my mind. It's same story that you hear all the time. I was one of those people, like I saw Hoist Gracie just changed. Well, it was really Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and Hoist Gracie was the tip of their spear at that for all intents and purposes. And he showed us something that we had never seen before. He showed us something that just blew. If anybody that was really a martial arts fan and practitioner, we hadn't seen that before. We hadn't seen what he did, the way he was just like a wet blanket, and he just kind of like he would just kind of cover over a guy, and no weight classes. He'd always be up against a bigger guy, and he's not a huge guy. He's kind of a lanky, but anyways, what I'm saying is that I went to the Torrance school. My dad drove me. I begged him. I said, which was far away. It was a couple hours away from where we lived. I said, I want to train with these people, and I went there, and they were like, so I went and took a free class, and they said, where do you live? I said, I live in Burbank, Toluca Lake, and they were like, that's not going to work, man. Why don't you buy? We've got some videos. So I bought the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in action, and which was the videos that you're referring to, I believe, which is where it just showed people coming into the dojo and challenging them, and then just getting totally taken down. It was like their line at the time was, how do you beat a shark?
You take them out of water.
You take them to the desert.
Mm-hmm.
So that was their line at the time, and that's exactly what they were doing. And then I also bought the full series, the home series, and they were like, just study these, and you will learn the basic. You'll learn the basics, because they could see that I after my class that I picked things up quickly. So, anyways, long story short, I was one of those guys that bought that stuff.
I think it's great, and also the time period, right? Because we're talking what time frame are we talking? Like late '90s, early 2000s, or maybe mid '90s?
I was in 7th grade. Voodoo, you. I think I was in 7th grade. So yeah,
93 ish.
Yeah, whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's kind of amazing, because like in jiu-jitsu circles in this day and age, where like you almost scoff at a person for like, oh, I saw it on YouTube or what have you, but that was literally the way that you could propagate jiu-jitsu. And we knew Gracie jiu-jitsu in that kind of like formative years, theoretically speaking, but it was like we've come now to find out like there's other jiu-jitsu disciplines just in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. There's Gordo jiu-jitsu, there's Valetudo, Machado, which Machado and Gracie, they're not too far off, because
Right.
I mean, Elio Gracie married into the Machado family, so it's the two big families in jiu-jitsu, theoretically speaking, is one big family. And
right. And then you have Eddie Bravo, who was a student of Machado, and then
John Jack, yeah.
he kind of went his own way and came up with the rubber guard, and that was his big innovation when he beat was it Hoyler Gracie
Euler
with I think with a triangle with his rubber guard, and then
in
he
Brazil.
Hey, I bet he had to hightail it out of there after he won that match. He was like, they were like, get in the car, homie, get in the car. We got to get you out of here.
Vamos,
Yeah, no, and it's wild too, because I mean, obviously that was kind of like the rise of what's his name, Covington, right? Brazil, you're a bunch of filthy animals, right? And this is, I mean, theoretically speaking, it's a little bit more civilized, and maybe everywhere was a little bit more rustic. I'm going to use that word, rustic, in the early 90s or mid 90s, or I think it was late 90s when Eddie beat Hoyler in Brazil. But I mean, if that's Colby Covington in like 2010s, imagine what it must have been to like submit a Gracie in Brazil in front of Elio. Yeah, this guy, but the real version of this guy, in like that's rough,
Yeah.
But I would, John Jock, especially because of his, the deformity of his hand and everything like that. That's I think, and not to besmirch any of the Machados, but like.
Besmirch, homie, besmirch.
Yeah,
Are you going William Regal on us?
Right. I know, 100%. But I mean, his is the only. I mean, I don't want to say his is the only one that really like gets away from that Gracie deal, but like he is the one because there's more leverage. It was. I would say John Jock is closer to what Elio was teaching than any of the other Gracie.
Wait a minute.
Machado brothers.
What are you saying? What are you saying? You're saying that John Jock. That Eddie Bravo gets away from the well, I missed your
no. So John Jock, versus the other Machado brothers or the other Gracie family members, I think his is a little bit more revolutionary, versus the other ones. If you come out of the Gracie Academy in Torrance and what have you, as you can see with. Brian Ortega and what have you, it's a little bit more skewed to that traditional, or what the Gracies will tell you is traditional jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Nothing before, nothing after it.
Yeah. But before that, I think what got Machado famous was Chuck Norris, right? Wasn't he training Chuck Norris for the Walker
Texas
Rangers time, and then Chuck actually bought him his first dojo or something like that, I believe.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly,
it was actually Chuck that sponsored all of the Machado brothers to essentially come to the U.S. Chuck is instrumental in the Machados coming over. The Gracies, they already had their deal, but the Machados, I mean, we're talking Hodge. What is it? Carlos, or Hegan, John Jock, what have you? Not only did he sponsor them, but featured them in Walker Texas Ranger.
Right, and then if I remember correctly, he would even feature different Brazilian jiu-jitsu moves on the show. Like I think there would usually be one move. He was usually throwing kicks, throwing mostly kicks. Sometimes he'd do some punches and stuff, but the typical Chuck Norris stuff. But then he would throw in an arm bar or maybe a triangle choke or something. I think the first time we ever saw Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was in Lethal Weapon, right? Whenever Mel Gibson put the triangle choke on, was it Gary Busey?
Gary Busey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was like what? It was. I think most people didn't even understand really what they were seeing, and then Chuck Norris started putting stuff in his show too. That was TV now. So now you're getting now people are starting to see Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a little bit more.
Man, wouldn't the world be a little bit different if Chuck Norris actually hit an armbar on Jeff Jarrett at the Royal Rumble when they shoved the Undertaker into the casket and Undertaker ascends versus that side kick that he threw at Jeff Jarrett? I mean, everything would be different. I feel like both MMA and pro wrestling, maybe with that armbar and whatever, maybe Jeff Jarrett doesn't do that good housekeeping match with China, or never goes to WCW, becomes kind of a four horseman, or ends up starting Impact Wrestling. Like if he just hit an armbar, or Chuck Norris just hit an armbar rather than that kick, everything would be different.
It would be like what was it in Back to the Future, where they had an alternate, it was like an alternate reality or something like that. Like when if Marty McFly doesn't ask so and so to marry him or what, I can't remember what the deal was. But
Yeah,
it was like somebody wouldn't be born. Marty, whatever.
I want to believe it's like if his mom, if he had gotten with his mom, or something like that, or his mom got with Biff instead of his dad, or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But then his mom also had the hots for him. Just
very strange.
Yeah, very little bit of incest going on in there. She thought his name was Calvin Klein. I remember that. He had
100%. He was playing Eddie Van Halen riffs, So I'm just saying. Yeah, so just saying.
Yeah.
But I feel like you got something.
I do have something. So, just so that people have a better understanding of who Robert Hooks is, could you dive into your beginnings a little bit? What got you into martial arts from the very get-go, and how was that spark influence your entire existence?
Oh, great question, man. It was, I would accompany my mom. My mom used to train in karate at the Tang Soo Karate Academy before me. And for whatever reason, I don't remember if I had to be with her because she was picking me up before that class, or if I requested to come, but I loved coming. And they were private classes with her and our instructor, Master Stan Smith. Beautiful man, wonderful man, who now teaches in Las Vegas. And I was mimicking. I was like 7 years old or something like that, and I was mimicking the movements, everything that Master Smith was showing my mom. I was sitting there because I was supposed to sit there and be still and be quiet. It was a very disciplined. Discipline was huge, and there was no talking or anything like that. You just supposed to whatever. But every time I saw her do something or saw him teach her something, I was doing it and I just couldn't help it, And I would stand up and I'd do a little stance or whatever. And so he said, listen, Rosie Lee, your son's he's got to stop that. He's got to stop. He can't be doing that. And so she went up to me and she said, hey, look, you gotta stop moving around, just be still, whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll try. But I couldn't do it. And so then Master Smith said, look, either he's got to sign up and he can train here, or you can't bring him here because you can't, he's learning the stuff. I can't just have a guy who's, he's got to
freeloading.
Yeah. So then she said, you want to do this? I said, yeah, absolutely. So then I signed up, and the rest is history, man. I was I loved it. I was fully immersed in it, and it just gave me I took to it. I was always good. I was good with the kinesthetic. My mind works in terms of kinesthetics, like if choreography. If I see something once, maybe twice, I've got it. So, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy that the body movement, the body work. I enjoy the mental aspects of it. I enjoy the spiritual aspects of it, and that's what's really shaped me as a human being today. Is that I consider myself the executive officer in charge of my own personal spiritual, mental, and physical security. And martial arts has everything to do with that. It when I go outside every day, boom, situational awareness. Okay, I'm scanning around. I'm looking around. Is there anyone looking at me? I take public transportation. And you'd be surprised. You should try this. You'd be surprised. You get on the bus or whatever, and just look, just scan at about 5 yards in a circle, and then scan at about 25 yards, and you'll probably see somebody looking at you, and then they might go like that or whatever. But maybe that guy had an idea in his mind, you know what I mean? But just the fact that you saw him, that defangs him. That he's like, okay, that guy's not a victim. He's paying attention. So these are things that I try to teach my son, and that that are things that are. Oh, and then also mentally, reading. I love to read, as you know, Voodoo, Miyamoto Musashi. The Book of Five Rings, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Of course, Bruce Lee, Jeet Kune Do, all of his writings, and if we want to talk about MMA, I think Bruce Lee's probably the first MMA person we've ever seen. So we can go back to Bruce Lee because before I was training, I was watching Bruce Lee movies, and so anyways, that's a long-winded answer.
Go long. This is a podcast. It is absolutely riveting, and especially as you were saying, about Bruce Lee, and it's funny for kids. I say kids because when you get to a certain age, that's kind of the vernacular you use. But old school. I watch Ronda Rousey. I'm like, that's your old school? Like, wow, Jesus Christ! Like, that's okay. Right on. Kudos to you. But you gotta remember, like, the time period, right? Or if you walked into a dojo of a particular discipline, and usually that was all striking. I'm a kid of the '80s, so Ninja Turtles and Chuck Norris had done some stuff, Bruce Lee, and it was very, very karate based. I remember going to judo at the recreational center in Northern California, and going like, wait, they were not throwing kicks and eating pizza, but it's closer to Bret Hart and Owen Hart and slamming people on the head, so I can get with it, But I mean, the melding of different disciplines, to somebody now that might be taking an MMA class where you get grappling, when you get striking and all of it, and the cardio and all of that stuff, it might be like out of the realm of possibility that if you walked into a gym, you train one discipline, and your sensei would just like, you're the shit of the earth if you decided you wanted to do something else. And it took a Bruce Lee type character, how respected he was in some not MMA community, but martial arts communities, and learning grappling from the great Judo Gene LaBelle, who I don't think gets enough credit. But grappling with the striking and being conditioned and everything like that. Even the first appearance of MMA type gloves in one of the Bruce Lee movies, like, it was life changing.
Yeah, Enter the Dragon. Yeah, that's right. He had the MMA gloves, and he did he do an armbar in that one?
Yeah, it was an armbar. It was an armbar.
That's right. And then of course, Judo Gene LaBelle, who is probably an icon, right? Because he transcended martial arts, and he even gets mentioned in the pro wrestling circles a lot, and had a lot to do with I think he did some pro wrestling as well. Woods, I see. I hit it.
Oh, yes.
I hit it. Hey, but before I turn it over to you, who I think is interesting right now is Hook, man. This new kid, because he's. Have you seen him, Voodoo?
Yeah, very little though.
Dude,
no. He's
man.
Taz's son.
Hook, he's Taz's son, and he's got some beautiful stuff, man. He's got some beautiful judo throws, and then he's got Taz's suplex. It's trippy because he's like. And then we're going off on a tangent, right? Real quick, but
tangent away.
He's like,
let's
he's
go.
He's like Taz. His body is nothing like Taz. Like Taz, as you remember, was a stocky, no neck,
short, fat fuck, just like me. That's why Taz is over in this guy's book.
Dude, Taz, hey, the suplex machine, dude. Beat me if you can.
Yeah.
let you.
If I let you survive, if I let
Survive
you.
if I let you,
No,
exactly.
no, it's like
But he's doing Taz's stuff, old stuff, and it looks good, man. Like if you pause it, like the way he pops his hips and everything,
mhm.
and it's kind of, he has a there's a little bit of a psychology problem because he's a smaller guy, and he's throwing people around like a bigger guy. It would make more sense if a bigger guy was doing that. So there's a little bit. Some people have a psychology issue with his stuff, but I love it, man. It looks really good. It looks good. So just talking about crossing over, and I think they mentioned Judo Gene LaBelle because he does some one or two things that was a Gene LaBelle thing, I think.
I mean, there's a lot. So I mean, going with I'll start with the latter part first. For those who haven't seen AEW's Hook, right? It's like combining Taz with a Jonas brother.
Yeah,
Like
right. That's good.
like
Yeah.
that's what you got in the Hook with a weird kind of like not flock of seagulls. I don't know what the hell. Like a seagull, a flock of seagulls flocked to him and ended up with that dude, and he's wearing like Air Force Ones in the ring or whatever. But I mean, it's great. I mean, I love Taz because he was a short, fat fuck that was brooding, and same, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I gravitated to him, but like Hook is something different, and when people talk about like psychology problems, I think that's in the pro wrestling deal because as we know about Royce Gracie, we know about flyweight MMA, women's MMA, where you have shorter, smaller people. In theory, they are world beaters. Stipe Miocic doesn't look like Tyson. Tyson had an aura. Stipe Miocic, you have a world heavyweight champion at the time who's working as an active firefighter in No Name, Ohio, right? So any heavyweight mystique gets stripped away, right? When you're world champion, the world beater, the baddest man on the planet, theoretically, is fighting fires as well. That might work when you're here in Ohio or wherever he is, right? But it doesn't work to the world at large, right? So,
right.
There's a mystique there, right? And Taz had that mystique and what have you. And I think Hook has it too, but Hook doesn't have to talk. I would even, I said, mix Taz with the Jonas Brother, but also kind of the mystique of early Goldberg, where he didn't talk, you didn't hear a lot of it. And I think you keep with that, AEW keep with that because that's what you get is gotten over non-talking. Sometimes you don't need to cut a promo. Sometimes you can, in this instance, let the work speak for itself. And I think Hook is doing that. But going back to like Judo Gene LaBelle, for those who don't know, right? Judo Gene LaBelle's mom is Eileen Eaton. And Eileen Eaton ran the Grand Olympic Auditorium here in LA.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So Judo Gene LaBelle, his mom is Eileen Eaton, right?
Okay.
And without the Grand Olympic Auditorium or regional style LA wrestling, you wouldn't get a Roddy Piper. You wouldn't get an Andre the Giant Battle Royal. You wouldn't get superstar Billy Graham. You wouldn't have Ali, who generously borrowed or stole from wrestling, right? And I think to kind of bring it back full circle, Ali and everybody else that has used pro wrestling in their presentation have come out the better and also transcended whatever genre that they're in. Look at The Rock, look at Mike Tyson, look at Roy, not Roy Jones Jr., Mayweather, all of these, Richard Sherman, right? Cuts a pro wrestling type promo, and that's what you get. But again, so Judo Gene LaBelle, again, the son of Eileen Eaton, runs the Grand Olympic Auditorium, and where it was pivotal because he was a shooter. He also, not only was he a world traveled judoka, right, but he was raised in Hollywood. He was preparing for a big judo competition, throws his gi in the wash, and not realizing there was something red and whatever. It turns it pink, and he made it his gimmick. That's what you do if you're a son of a wrestling promoter, as well as somebody who is in Hollywood. And Judo Gene LaBelle does a lot of Hollywood stunt work. I think he's in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, a version of a Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the Hollywood Stuntman Hall of Fame, like, and the Martial Arts Hall of Fame. He's so important to everything, whether it be pro wrestling, whether it be MMA. Him and Milo Savage was the first MMA style matchup where you have a judoka in Judo Jean LaBelle as well as Milo Savage, a boxer, and we're figuring out what works, and that was the precursor to Ali and Inoki, 20 years later. So I'm just saying, Judo Jean LaBelle to me is up there with a Hoist Gracie, is up there with Ed Strangler Lewis, or Lou Thez or Kurt Angle, that's just, or John Jock Machado and Eddie Bravo. That it messes with me a little bit that Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is the alpha, right? Yes, they did market it, but it's not the only jiu-jitsu, and it's not the only grappling style. There's sambo, there's catch wrestling, there's just whatever the heck Davidson Figueiredo is doing in the Amazon, whatever. Like, there's so much, and I just think for everything. And when you have somebody like Judo Jean LaBelle, you tie him to Bruce Lee. He was Bruce Lee's grappling instructor. You tie him to who his family lineage is, and if a wrestler got too big for their britches and didn't want to drop the title or didn't want to do a job at the Grand Olympic Auditorium back in the territory days, well, you wouldn't hear any music. You would just see Judo Jean LaBelle come out. And that wrestler that didn't want to do the job, they leave that title in the ring, never to be seen again, because he was going to stretch you in 9 ways to Sunday.
Hey, excuse me. Hey, Voodoo. Yeah. Where'd you find this guy Woods, man? He's an encyclopedia, dude. He's a human encyclopedia. Hey, Woods, I'm impressed, my man. I'm impressed.
That's what he does, man. That's what he does.
Hey, that's tight, man.
Hey, his moniker, the one that I gave him is 8 or more a day Woods. 8 podcasts or more a day Woods. Straight up.
Yeah, I believe it, man. I'll watch all of them.
Mario Yamasakis, I appreciate it. No, I mean, there's not much. I mean, it's fight sports, music, and that's about it. You can tell me what else is happening in the world. Can't really give it to you. I like people. You check out the social medias. It's like usually, a podcast or somebody getting dumped on the head. I don't know why it happens. It's just that's the only thing that sticks. I'm just saying.
That's what's up, man.
But Rob, you were one thing about you, and is you stress. Of course, you have a legitimate traditional martial arts background, right? But then you stress the importance of being entertaining, whatever it is you're doing. And I think it's so crucial, especially in this day and age where you have social media, where you have other avenues that are readily accessible. Before you would hand a person your business card and like, this is who I am or whatever. Now you can literally do that, signing up with a social media platform or what have you. And where does this come about? Because that is almost the emphasis of traditional martial arts, especially what you came up under, what your mom came up under.
Woods, I'm sorry, man. You broke up. Give me the question in a sentence, or because I missed the question. But I caught the end. But just give me the question, because.
So how does a traditional martial artist get into the mindset of you have to be entertaining?
Wow, that's a great question. How does a traditional martial artist get into the mindset that you have to be entertaining?
Hey, wait! Before you answer, Rob, 1 second. Let us give you a little more insight into why he's asking you that question. So we have a lot of MMA fighters who happen to be martial artists. They call themselves martial artists, or they call themselves like straight up fight, whatever the whatever describes them, and they don't feel that entertaining the fans verbally is something that should be important. They feel that their fighting should be all that's necessary for them to get the accolade that they deserve. But as you know, in reality, this isn't the case, right? And this is why he's asking you what he's asking you. So you are a martial artist, So how do you link that other part to it?
Yeah. Okay. I got you. The more tools you have, when you get to a certain level, the more tools you have, the better you'll be. The more effective you'll be. The more round your game is, the more effective you'll be. So like so just imagine a pro wrestler who's a great wrestler, who knows all the moves, but he doesn't have a good promo. He doesn't. If you can't really give him the mic, he's handicapped there. Like Brock Lesnar is kind of like that. So the answer for Brock Lesnar is Paul Heyman, right? You got to get. But in the world of martial arts, they don't really have managers. You don't really get to have a guy who does the talking for you. So you have to develop some kind of, you have to get over. You have to be able to get over with your promo, with your verbal. And then there are ways. You don't always have to be. There are ways to do it, to get over. Like you know who I think of? Now I'm gonna go to I think of Dorian Yates, because Dorian Yates was one of my favorite bodybuilders back in the day, and he was known as the Shadow. And you never heard him say anything. You never saw him. He didn't do exhibitions. He only came out for the Mr. Olympia competition. And when he finally took off his gear and you saw his muscles, even the bodybuilders were like, "Oh my God." Because his thing was, he never missed a day of training. He was so hard. He was so conditioned that his muscles, they looked like granite. Like you could see that and then he just, his aura just he was winning already just by showing up and taking off his stuff, because he hadn't unveiled his package. But that's very difficult to do in the MMA world. You need to, you can figure out, like, if you're not a Conor McGregor, and nobody's got Conor McGregor except for Conor McGregor. He's the greatest mouthpiece in the history of the business. And so, but even if you're if you want to be a quiet, a peaceful martial arts guy, then do like what's our homie's name with the Muay Thai hairstyle, voodoo?
Yuri Prochaska?
Yeah, man, like
Yuri Prochaska?
Yeah, like he figured out how to go the honorable martial artist code way. He's not talking a bunch of he's doing what he believes in, but he figured out how to make it a gimmick. He figured out how to be like, okay, I am the one. What you have to, you can't get away from it. You have to figure out how to market yourself, what makes you special. If you're not going to be a big mouth type of guy, then just say a couple of things that are very menacing or whatever. Like I remember Voodoo, you posted what's that, Figueiredo? He was like, I what does he say? I knock you out, motherfucker. And anyway, he was just like, I'm going to knock you out, man. I'm going to do something. And it was so fun. It was so. Why did you like that, Voodoo? Why did you like you posted? You were like, for all of you people out there who don't speak, he doesn't even speak very much English, but he got over with you with that. What was it? Let me throw it to you. What was it about what he said and how he said it? Or
very simple. Figueiredo, really, when he first started, when Figueiredo first started, he was one of these guys. I'm Brazilian, and I'm proud of my Brazilian heritage, which is fine and dandy. And I'm only going to speak Portuguese or whatnot. And everything went well, but he didn't get the accolade that comes with the hard work that he was putting in. Especially someone coming from the Amazon, nobody cares about an Amazonian. Not even the Brazilians really care about the Amazonian. But he realized the errors of his ways. And, when you are in Rome, as they say, you have to do as the Romans, If you can't come all the way to America or to an American market and expect to go over with your Portuguese, it's not going to happen. The Americans don't get down with that. First you need to understand your audience, right? If you understand your audience, then you understand that you need to communicate with your audience. They appreciate you more when you speak the language. Look, man, let's be honest. We are in America. What do I know you've seen something on social media where someone is speaking their native tongue, maybe in a restaurant, and some American is saying, "Hey, this is America. It's America. We speak English in America. Get that back where you came from. Speak English in America." Hey, man, this is the mentality. A lot of people might not say what I'm saying, but it's a fact. People in America expect you to speak their language. And if you are going to be on TV and you want to get over on TV, you better learn something. Davison Figueroa was like, hey, rap music, they use all these words, you know what I mean? And it goes over. Why can't I do that? This is one word that will go over around the world. Motherfucker. You know what I mean? Brandon, what's that guy's name that he beat? What's that guy's name that he beat again? What was his name? Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno. You cry baby.
Cry baby.
He said, cry baby. I'm gonna knock you out, motherfucker. And then he went into a Portuguese rant. See, it was a setup. It was an English setup to a Portuguese rant. The Americans don't care anymore because now they understand what you're trying to tell them in Portuguese. You know what I mean? You're trying to smash this dude. Oh, I get it. You're trying to beat this fool's ass. Oh, so that's what you're saying in all that Portuguese that followed. Got it. Okay, I'll pay for this. So this is what he did, right? I'm sure this was helped by the camp that he was training with. The
Fight Ready MMA yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I'm sure they helped him with this cap. I mean, he's coming to the ring with his necklace on and his mouth, the gold teeth and all that. He understands he needs to create something tangible. Shaka Zulu once said, well, after the Europeans did him in the way they did him in, and he learned something about himself, and then he said to the guy, "How do you trap a monkey?" And the dude said, "You show him something shiny." You know what I mean? And this is how you trap your audience. Mm-hmm. Show them something shiny. Figueiredo did it literally. He's got the gold teeth, the gold necklace, the shiny, shine. This is how you capture your audience. He doesn't even have to know the English language. He just needs to say a few words, and bam, look at him now. He's got a title. He was able to secure a title shot after he lost his title. You know what I mean? And now he's got the title back. Now he can speak all the Portuguese he wants because the bread is in his pocket. It is what it is.
Yeah, and the whole the way the UFC works now, especially they're so strong with the reporters. You know, you notice they always have the same reporters. They start with the big fat guy, and then
John Morgan.
And then they got the schmoes there, and whichever all their characters in looking for all a part of the game. So you have to be able. Dana White's not going to like it if when you show up at the press conference and you don't have a soundbite. You don't have because then that's a piece of the pie that's missing, and then that's dollar signs that's missed opportunities. That's missed. They don't like that. Like that's what happened to Colby Covington, right? He was a boring guy. He didn't have any kind of a thing, and they were like, "Dude, we're gonna fire you, dude. Like you got to figure something out." And then he came up with this bad guy character, and now it's working. It's working for him, and now he's back. He's back in the limelight. So that actually saved him. He was smart enough to pivot and to be able to go, okay, oh man, I need a character. I need to. am I a good guy? The good guy thing, and maybe he tried that. I don't know. I didn't look too closely at his character development, but
Oh,
I know that now he's with the bad guy thing, and that's working for him. It seems to be.
so I mean, at this time where Colby is about to get released, they do a run into, and what I mean, I'm talking about Dan Lambert and a version of the American Top Team, right? They do a run in Impact Wrestling with Bobby Lashley, right? Who legit
I didn't know
martial,
that.
yeah, mixed martial artist and what have you, right? And Bobby couldn't really talk, so they put Dan with him, and then they put Dan, obviously, Dan being from, the founder of American Top Team, you add a little bit more to Lashley's mystique in terms of being
Great mouthpiece, by the way. Great,
yeah,
Dan. He's got a great promo.
which, by the way, oh, hey, if it works, don't. I mean, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Because look at what he's doing in AEW. Same thing with, again, who's he with? Masvidal. He's gotten better with his promos, right? Over this last, what is it, 3 years? He was a journeyman at best, and then he developed the persona, and he's gotten 2 straight title fights. More money than he could have ever had. Not adopting the persona, right? You got Paige Van Zandt, right? Who, yes, maybe, marketable, but what was a good Paige Van Zandt promo? Didn't see one, right? Didn't see one until this.
Yeah.
Her husband, Austin Vanderford, is headlining Bellator next week. He's in that stable. He's in that stable with Dan Lambert in AEW. What's the Andre Arlovsky? They put him in AEW with Dan Lambert. Of course, he was already training there or whatever, but secure payday, right? This is all of these things are bargaining chips that you could go to a UFC as you're, regaining, in contract negotiations and say, hey, I was on AEW. I made a $10,000 payday on this one appearance, So what do you got for me? Obviously the wrestling fans, and that's a nice little, like a bargaining chip, right? You have an arena full of fans that are reacting to what you're going to do, more so than an MMA base, unfortunately. And this is why it's super important to develop a sort of fan base, because that's one thing that pro wrestling has done that, the MMA for a large part hasn't done. With MMA, the fan base, if you don't win or you don't do what they like, if you're a knockout artist and you get a decision, if you're a submission artist and you get a decision, guess what? That MMA fan base, adios. You lose a fight, you get caught, whatever. Bye, right? Versus pro wrestling, and if you're a wrestler that endears yourself to the fans and everything like that, they're buying your merch, right? Where's the MMA merch? Not here, because I'll let my manager do it. I'll let the promotion promote me. And when you're not with the promotion anymore, and you wonder why those paychecks have dried out, why those opportunities have dried out, I'm just saying, all the shit you were talking about pro wrestling, they figured it out because the merch, autograph sightings, like all of these things are, guest appearances. All of these things are monetized things that they can go to a promoter and like, I made this here. This is my fan base. I know that these people are going to show up for me. You put me on a card. You put me on this. Whatever. You make me a manager. I don't care. I don't. I'll take one bump. Honky Tonk Man hasn't taken a flat back bump since like '93, which was his last like WCW contract, right? But he's wrestled every weekend without taking the bump because, again, he sells it. Before a lockup, 8 minutes has gone by in the match where he's, telling you, I'm going to get your mom, and you're penciling a geek here, and shake, rattle, and roll this, and whatever. Well, if you're paying Honky Tonk Man $800 for this match, well, 8 minutes of it, he didn't get hurt once. He didn't get touched once. Right. And that again goes to the mystique of everything, what they're doing with Hook. You don't have to be, when people think about being a boisterous personality, they think you have to be a Conor McGregor or what have you. And I hate using this reference, but I think it fits here. Right. Chris Benoit and ECW. Right. Chris Benoit and ECW couldn't cut a promo to save his life. They were,
Right.
in Paul Heyman's basement at like 4 a.m. in Philadelphia, and he couldn't get it, hours and hours and hours. So Heyman goes, I got it. He goes into his medicine cabinet, gets baby powder, puts it in Benoit's hands, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning in Philadelphia. There's a bit of cold, and it's dark as hell, right? You put the powder in Benoit's hands, and if he's supposed to be the crippler, guess what? You're gonna film him doing like this with the baby powder, queefing the sky, and
Yeah.
essentially, he didn't have to say anything. It's just
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? Taz going like this.
Yeah.
That's one of the most marketable things in all of combat sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Him just doing that, turning the lights off.
Which Hook now does on the he does it on the
On the
turnbuckle.
turnbuckle.
He just goes up, and basically what I see with Hook is like James Dean. He's doing James Dean. It's like the outsider guy who doesn't care. He doesn't care about authority. He's there to do his thing. He's in his own thing, whatever. And that's the advice that I would give any of you young fighters out there who are having trouble with your promo or with your character or think about the movies you like. Think about the music that you like. Think about the characters. If you think about the books the characters in books that you gravitate towards. Think about the people, the posters that you have on your wall. Who is it? Is it Arnold? Is it who is it? Is it The Rock? Whatever. But then just think about that person's rhythms, how they talk. You can imitate those people. You probably do it with your friends or whatever. So just think about the stuff that you like, and try to figure out what about that stuff do you have? What about the stuff that is a reflection of you? And just amplify that. Work on it. Look, get in the mirror. Just have your friends ask you questions. Play the character. Like a Razor Ramon. He's doing Tony Montana. You know what I mean? He was most of these wrestlers and maybe even Conor McGregor. I don't know that. Probably Conor McGregor. He's just doing himself. He's just like that. But he's like an outlier. He's an anomaly. But you can develop something. You can develop something because just look in your stack of movies. Look in your whatever, and even if you can't remember a speech, think about the rhythms. Think about how the person talks. Like Figueiredo. Hey, I'm going to get you, man. It's not going to be nothing now. You know what I mean? There's a rhythm that's like, okay, that's catchy. That's it. So you can also focus on the style and the way that you're saying things. You only have to say a couple things maybe, or the way that you're presenting yourself. But that would be my advice. Look at, if you're having trouble building a character, just look at the stuff that you're into and try to find a common denominator there with yourself.
Yeah, you definitely beat me to it. I was waiting for you guys to finish before I jumped into it. Uh, when I was in college, by chance I took a speech class, and in the beginning of that speech class, it was tough. It was tough because I'd never spoken in front of an audience, really, you know. And now I'm being asked to do this a couple of times a week. It's like, whoa, what the hell, you know? So there's gonna be a rough process in the beginning, but with practice, this can change. I mean, I went from speech class to talking a whole bunch of smack at the U of MMA. I became comfortable in this class. The class was what made me comfortable. So this is something that you can do, young fighters. Go ahead and enroll yourself in the class. I mean, you don't even have to care if you pass or not. Um, Go to a community college and take a speech class, and practice your craft. Um, this can mean the difference between $10,000 and $100 million. Like literally, it is that important. Now going back to you, Rob. Um, a lot of people don't know this. The fans, well, the people that listen to us might not know this, but you're a film student. In addition to what you said, what other tools? Uh, First of all, from a directing perspective, what do you look for in your in your actors? What do you look for? What do you look for, and um, where can the people go that, let's say, the ones that can afford it, where can they go? I mean, of course, YouTube and all that, but like, who and what should they research, and how should they research it? Like, if you were talking, if you were writing a what do you call those books? Something MMA for dummies, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the chapter that focuses on microphone skills. How would you write that chapter?
Well, the first word would be improv. Improvisation is probably the most important thing. You have to be able to take an idea, and like, if I give you as a well, first of all, as a director, looking for an actor in the audition process, I'm going to give you the hardest scene. I'm going to give you the scene where you have to cry, or the scene where you're at the height of your emotional arc in the story, and I have to know if you can do that. And if you can do that, then I already know that you could dial back and do all the rest of the stuff. If you can give me the hardest thing first. So that's, as a director, as a filmmaker, that's what I look for in my actors. Okay, I just look for the hardest scene, and the most touching, the most emotional thing, and do they have the chops? So that's what I look for in a in an actor. But as far as what people should study is improvisation, um, which is not always as easy as it seems, and it can be very intimidating, but it's actually something we all do each and every day. As soon as we step outside of our doors, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who you're going to run into. You're going to run into, Aunt Susie, or you're gonna see your old teacher from high school, or you're going to run into uh, 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 um, a problem at the cash register, and you're going to know what to say, because as human beings, we know how to but when the pressure, when the camera's on, and it's like, okay, now it's time, now I'm going to give you a subject, and you have to run with it, then people freeze up and they get nervous. So that it has to do with practicing improvisation. I would say, go find a book on improv games. There are all these improvisational games that you can play, and you can play them with your friends, and like, one of them is called Universal Mind, where you line up with a group of your friends, and then there's a conductor, and then the conductor points to one person, and that person just has to start talking. They just have to start talking right away, and they can't say or they can't say they can't. You just have to keep going. And then the conductor points to the next person, and that next person has to pick up right where the last person left off, without saying or they just have to keep the story going, just like it was their story in their own mind. And then the conductor keeps pointing to other people, and it's called Universal Mind, because eventually, if you get a good group, they can just keep one story going, and it'll go all kinds of weird places, and there's no rules. You could take the story anywhere you want. And so but that's just one improv game. I would say, go buy a book about improvisation, and start learning to improvise, because if you can improvise, then you won't have a problem with any of this stuff.
It's funny that you see that, right? Where you had the WWE send Cody Rhodes, right? Cody Runnels to improv class, and then he ended up, obviously, doing what he did in the WWE. Guest starred on Arrow with Stephen Amell, who's pro wrestling fan and created another avenue for him. And then obviously the formation of AEW. He's not there now, but that's the improv skills that you mentioned. Those kind of that permeates. Look at Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is another person who they sent to acting classes and what have you. He's the top guy in the WWE. And yes, that's just pro wrestling, but that just shows you if a $1 billion company, um, feels that this is like a crucial part to a presentation of what they have a person draw money with, right? And the UFC, as well as Bellator, are owned by one being UFC, a talent agency, the largest talent agency in Hollywood, to the extent where when I was doing Uber pre-pandemic, I picked up from there. I picked up from the WME offices in what mid Century City, right separates Beverly Hills from West Hollywood, and somebody was like, "Oh, you speak well. I mean, are you an actor? Do you have a resume and what have you?" I was like, "No, I'm an interviewer for MMA," and they were like, "What's that?" And I was like, "The UFC." What's that? You guys own them, right? I was like, I had no idea. So if in MMA circles, right, and this is one thing that I think it's rough for people within MMA and even in pro wrestling, right, where you're used to people knowing who you are in those particular circles, right? But you can go, and even if you take Chuck Liddell, who's an icon in MMA, and him walking down the street, aside from his his haircut,
Mohawk.
would you really know who he was? Does he have an aura of mystique around him? But Tito Ortiz, on the other hand, like him or not, he has a mystique. And that mystique took him even to a political office in his native Huntington Beach, California. I mean, how that ended up happening, what have you, and how it ended up ending. But it happened, and he rode that wave. He rode that wave. So with that all being said, it's just like, if you think you're great in MMA, you're big in MMA, right? You think you're a world beater. That means absolute dog shit to Bob Arum, the biggest boxing promoter, to your parent company, to anywhere outside. You don't have to listen to the Rolling Stones to know who Mick Jagger is, right? That's a cultural phenomenon, right? To get to a point where you transcend your genre, right? Even if nobody knew what MMA is, they kind of have an idea of Brock or Ronda or Connor. If you didn't know what pro wrestling is, Austin, Hogan, and you could and after that, it gets all fuzzy. And obviously The Rock, right? It gets fuzzy. But these are people who have transcended their genre by having a little bit more like a more sizzle to the steak and entertainment value to their viewing audience, where they don't need the thing that you knew them for when they first came onto your screens, when they first came into your consciousness. They no longer need that thing, that vehicle. They have transcended that vehicle, and that's why, when you're talking about, an improv class, to be able, if somebody has a microphone in front of your face, if you see that red light and you start to shudder a little bit, it's so crucial to figure out a way around that, right?
Yeah.
To burst through that theoretical boundary that you have in your mind, that fear that you have. What if I say something stupid? Great. We saw that with, obviously the most famous or infamous, RDA and Connor jab. And we saw, Mike Chiesa and Kevin Lee try to do the same thing to disastrous results, right? But they tried.
Yeah. And Connor, I'm sorry, RDA. Who's RDA again?
Rafael Dos
Anjos.
Now, are you referring to the time when he stole the belt, when he picked it, when he?
No, that's
Aldo.
That's Aldo. The winner.
That right. Yeah, that one right there. Like that's an example right there. Like, you don't even have to necessarily say like Connor right there. He just took the guy's belt, man. He took the guy's belt away, and he was like, Now, right there, he just made a fool out of that guy, man. Like he just totally clowned him. And I think that they were talking about being the king of whichever
Rio.
country, either Ireland. Yeah. And right there, it's like, just do a move, make something happen, do something like, again, just get over. You don't even necessarily have to say something. You just have to do something. You have to figure out some kind of something that people will remember.
Yes. So the three things that Woods and I like to discuss is, of course, you have to be a winner. You have to, have a winning record. People are drawn to people or fighters who win, right? Especially fighters who win in a spectacular way. That's one. Two, what we're discussing right now, which is the microphone skills. And last but not least is the social media aspects of things, promoting yourself and or whatnot. Now I know you, Rob, you make movies and you do these things. Could you tell us about the promotion process? How do you promote your work?
It's something that I need to get better at.
And we all have to get better at it.
Yeah. It's social media channels, man. Social media channels involve the people in the process, man. Like, if you have a logo, just be showing the logo. Create some kind of mystery, use your channels, your social media channels, to create a buzz about yourself. Bring the people into the emotional struggles of what you're trying to do, or it depends on whatever the content is, whatever your content is. Like if you have some kind of a social justice kind of a content, then right there you can talk about, you can on your social media channels, you can talk about injustice, and you can bring people in emotionally that way, and then tie it to your whatever your project is. So whatever your content is, whatever you're talking about, tie that in with the emotions of your target audience, man. Like, what are they? It's all about emotions. It's not about facts. Like, you can't get up there and hold up a graph, and talk about numbers and ratios and things of that nature, because that's the analytical mind, and that's not the mind that buys things. The mind that buys things is the emotional mind, the emotional brain. So you have to make people a promise, like, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am, okay, this is what I bring to the table, and then you have to paint a picture. You have to paint a picture, an emotional picture. Like if you're selling a weight loss product, you got to be like, imagine you're on the beach, okay, and you take off your shirt, and you've got amazing 6-pack abs, and you're walking, and every girl is turning their heads. They can't, you get in your car. And so now people are like, oh man, yeah, that's it. You're creating an emotional, you're creating an emotional image and an idea that people will be able to that they're either, you have to create something that either people are dreaming about or that they're afraid of. That's how you do it. So if you want to go the other way with it, like if you're selling insurance, like life insurance, then you show a pair of empty shoes, and you say, one day, like these were your shoes. Now you're dead, right? Now these were your shoes, and now what about your family? They're who's going to take care of them now that you're gone? And so now you're thinking, oh my goodness, I'm afraid. So now I'm going to go buy some insurance because I'm afraid of. So you have to either appeal to people's dreams and hopes, or you have to appeal to people's fears, and then you have to. And then at that point, you can bring in the proof. That's when you can bring out the graphs and the charts and say, the Dr. So-and-so from Harvard backs this up, and we know this works from all this stuff. And that, so now that we have the emotional brain hooked, now we go for the logical brain, and then you hit them, and then after that you hit them with the sale, with the call to action or whatever.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's selling a dream, right? And that's the one part of promotion that, again, I think gets lost in the ether, especially nowadays, where I mean, not to the people who essentially are a part of the promotion, but the people who are are basically the I don't want to say pawns to a lesser degree, but definitely, the people kind of being, are the catalyst for people getting worked over, right? You have to just get them into the arena, get them to pay for the pay-per-view, get them to whatever it is that the end game is. You have to get them there. I think Jim Ross says it kind of perfectly. And then the bell rang. You lead up all that. The Ultimate Warrior coming down the ring, running, whatever, shaking the ropes. Nobody really, I mean, not until like recent years of the last 10, 15 years, do people go like, oh, well, you might have been the drizzling shits. Like, whatever. Oh, his matches weren't great. But he sold you how many Ultimate Warrior fans are there, throughout history, right? Right. Exactly. But you sell them. That's one way to sell them. So if you create a mystique that people are doing, and there's so many people that create it. Well, you mentioned Yuri Prohaska, right? Again, to be this ass kicking, monk Muay Thai Polish gent. Like, I've never seen that before, but it works. Hamzat Chimaev, who made an immediate impact, didn't know English, didn't whatever. Now he's up his shit talking game even further now that he has a grasp, whatever. But that first two fights, he had everybody hooked. I was just like, give the title to him. He's probably the most exciting thing that has been ushered and promoted in the UFC, and authentically, over fighter, whatever you want to call it, right? Entertainer, athlete, whatever. He's more interesting in two fights back to back and just maulings than anything the UFC has promoted since Conor McGregor. And it's just, there you go. And how you can have like a Goldberg s mystique, a Taz s mystique, an Undertaker like mystique, without having to say really a whole lot. You want to make your stuff mean a lot more. That's how you do it. And I even though it's easier with the advent of social media, all you have to have is an email address and take in and let fly. But also the UFC has made your job a little bit harder. That since the pandemic, they have pretty much conditioned their audience that we're having a UFC fight, whether it be pay-per-view or fight night, every weekend, every Saturday. We know that we can fire up the ESPN Plus app and we got MMA, right? And with that all being said, you just being a good fighter, you having a kind of, or waiting for the next fight to happen, and waiting for it to get exciting. All that stuff is like, oh, I'm gonna do this. So when my contract negotiation comes up, okay, that's cool. Because
Yeah.
the thing that you think is your bread and butter, that knockout, that submission, that gritty fight, or whatever, guess what? You did this week. Next week, somebody will have it. The week before, somebody did it before, whatever. And now your bargaining power is almost nullified, So that much more that you have to utilize a social media, start doing a podcast. Not to say that it's going to be, a Rogan level, what have you. Rogan kind of made sure that after that, there's nothing bigger than that. It's like Beckham's $100 million contract. It's the UFC getting bought out for billions of dollars and what have you. It's never going to happen again. But it could be a way for you, just beyond fighting, to connect with your fans and link them back. Almost like a circle jerk or a human centipede. And I hate that those are the only things that are coming in, but like it's a happy kind of reciprocal thing, because look at Rogan, right? Rogan has the podcast, and what does he do with the podcast? He promotes On It. On It is a company and brand that he co-owns, right?
Yeah.
And then so and then he's on ESPN TV without whatever, he's there. So you seeing Rogan on a UFC broadcast, that might compel you to listen to the podcast. And by listening to the podcast, you might, buy a monkey form kettlebell from on it and whatever. And all of that stuff, it's reciprocal that Rogan gets, right?
Yeah.
Al Snow said it. As a wrestler, you can never really be fired because, essentially whatever promotion that you're wrestling for is an advertisement, right? And once you have that advertisement,
you're making a commercial for yourself.
Exactly. And once that's gone, it's hopefully you weren't selling wolf tickets, that those same people that came to see you there at that promotion, that bought the merch and whatever, now you're doing it on your own. And guess what? Instead of getting 30% of a t-shirt sale, you get closer to 80-90%, off the gate. Yes, it's a smaller gate, but you are the Roman Reigns of that smaller promotion, theoretically speaking. So you get a lion's share of a smaller gate, but you end up, if you do enough of them, you end up even. Sometimes even better than you were before. And again, that's one thing that, there's a gentleman that we talked about, in the pandemic era. I can't even remember his first name, but his fight moniker was Rat Garbage. Well, that was something that Vito was like, "Oh, what the hell is rat garbage?" and whatever.
Yeah.
But it was a visceral reaction, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? With that and training at TriStar, I believe, right? Where so many fighters, namely George St. Pierre, made its home, put on the map and what have you, and is training there, and he left the UFC without a whimper. Nobody knew. I didn't know that he was no longer in the UFC until I watched the Bellator prelims and saw him over there. And guess what? He's on the prelims and he lost. He got dominated. And you had something that caused a visceral reaction from people like Voodoo, people like myself. What is rat garbage? You kind of piqued their interest, and you did nothing with it. Now you're out of one promotion. You lost in your new promotion. What do you got?
Yeah, squat. You got diddly squat. You got rat garbage. Self-fulfilling prophecy. But hey, Voodoo, you did this very well, man. Like in your MMA career, I mean, you did this very well. You had a catchphrase, like whenever you won, which was like most of the time, and also it was also in spectacular fashion. And then I was there. You had the best promo of the night every single night, and Jay Tan will tell you the same thing. And then in the end of your promo, you did your catchphrase, and you did your catchphrase, and your flex, and then you flexed on him, bro. And so it was like, and what was it? What was it that you used to say at the end?
Oh man, are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Yeah. And then we would go and film something at your dojo, at Flying Kick, and then we would like, it would be something simple, like a combination or whatever, but we just have you take your shirt off, flex your muscles, let's see a hook or whatever, show it in slow motion, write a little blurb, do some hashtags or whatever, put are you not entertained, and then the people come see you, dude. I remember when you won the belt, when you won the U of MMA belt, and we went from inside the arena to the outside. There was a crowd of people there screaming for you and screaming your name.
Yeah.
Dude, we have it on film somewhere. It's probably on your
it's on somewhere.
Instagram or whatever. But you did a great job. You did a great job of linking all those elements. Great fighting, dude. You have the best, one of the best knockouts I've ever seen. That spinning back elbow that you caught that dude with, and he just dropped.
Right,
dude. Woods, have you seen this? Have you seen his spinning back elbow? That he just dropped the guy.
He killed the guy, literally.
Oh,
Mama, I just killed a man, is what Queen used to say. Voodoo actually has the claim to do it.
I don't think I've ever seen a better one in UFC or Bellator or anything like that. The timing and everything on that was perfect.
In motion.
So anyway, in motion, dude, and then and so you put all those things together beautifully. So of the three of us, you're the guy who actually did all this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, hats off.
Hey, the thing these fighters need to understand is it's very simple. Remove the ego. Remove the ego, right? I understand if you are a respectable martial artist or whatever you want to call yourself. It's not about that. We, I mean, who signs up to get their heads bashed in and get no reward for it? And only, oh man, you're a great fighter. That doesn't pay the bills, man. It doesn't pay the bills. We got kids. I know a lot of you have children. Your children need to eat, and you're letting your ego stop your growth. Don't do that to yourself. It's very simple, man. I grew up watching sports entertainment: WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, W, WWF, whatever, NWA. I grew up in this, so I understand what these athletes do to connect with with the with the public, the fans. I get that. Now, for me to do it, I had to go and get myself instructed in the art of speaking, and that's what I spoke about earlier in regards to the speech class that I took in at CSUN. Also, reading is extremely important. Um, I'm going to tell a story that I probably never told you, Gung Fu, but you were part of this. There was a time where myself, Gung Fu, Tikapong, Wish, a whole bunch of us, we're in the dorms just hanging out, and we're young brothers. We're talking about each other's mama. Your mama's this, your mama's that. You're this and you're that. Ha 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 ha. And then it was Kung Fu's turn, and he was like, "Yeah, that's why you have no neurons." And everyone in the room got quiet. The fuck did he say? The fuck's a neuron? And I had the feeling of Homer Simpson. A lot of you have seen the meme of Homer Simpson. When something bad happens, he disappears into the bushes, right? I had that feeling in my mind, and I had an out of body experience, and I was watching the whole room from out here, and I'm watching their reaction. Hey, I didn't know what a neuron was either, and I'm in college, right? And I could tell that everyone else didn't understand what neuron was, and it was like, whoa, what the hell was that? And I believe someone asked, "What the hell's a neuron?" And well, you don't know what a neuron is. What? And then a neuron is this, and that. Okay. And ever since then, I knew that I'm underread. I hope that's a word. I knew that I was underread, and I had to do something about it. And from that day on, I started reading. Right. I read a whole bunch of Gung Fu's books because we were college roommates. He was my roommate. So I read a bunch of his books, all the Bruce Lee books, all the this book and that book. I read a bunch of his books. The Book of Five Rings that he mentioned earlier, Miyamoto Musashi, the Tai Te Ching. I just jumped into all that stuff, and from that, I ended up becoming who I am today. So of course you need to learn from those who's done it already. The Rock has done it. The Ultimate Warrior has done it. Yes, they did fake wrestling or whatever you want to call it, but understand that they have the power to connect to people or with people. I mean, The Rock was just at the Super Bowl opening, and he was the opener. Why? Because he speaks well. He speaks well. He's got this thing that connects with the people. And this is what it's all about. He went from pro wrestling to the movies. Why? Because he speaks well. He went from the movies to creating, producing TV shows. Why? Because he speaks very well. He went from that to the Super Bowl. Why? Because he speaks very well. And not only can he speak very well, he can do it in front of the millions.
10 million.
So this is the key. This is what it's all about. It's about connecting with the people. Figure it out, man. Get your ego out the way. If you need to learn from Conor McGregor, you don't have to like him. That's the best part about it. You could hate this guy all you want. Just study him. And please, if you're going to use some of his material, you don't have to like him. You can cite him. Like this son of a gun, this bastard Conor McGregor, whom I hate so much, like he always says, to be the man, you gotta whatever it is that he says, you repeat it, but cite your source. Cite your source. Don't plagiarize, Usman. Usman, don't plagiarize, man. Because if you don't cite your source, the owner will call you out on it, like Conor always calls him out. All he had to do was say, "Hey, man, I hate this son of a bitch, but he is correct when he says this, and that, right?" Then Conor could never ever come back to you and say you stole from me, right? So cite your source and good luck to you.
That's very important, man. Or the fans will call you out, because even if the person, the source doesn't even hear it, somebody out there who heard it, they remember that phrase that they saw the same thing you saw, and they'll blow you up on your social media and be like, "Man, you heard that from such and such, man," and they'll call you out. So yeah, cite your source. That's a good one, Voodoo.
Yeah. So like we've always said, we're talking about, of course, you have to be a fighter, right? And a whole lot of your energy, out of 100% energy that you have, I'm sure 70% goes to all that physical stuff. But make time, man. Make time for your mic skills that needs to be developed. Put the time necessary to develop your mic skills, and of course your social media. Some of you say that I am a respectable fighter, I am this and I am that, right? Okay, great. In your social media, tell us more about that guy. Tell us more about what a respectable fighter you are. We want to know more. See, that's the thing about the fans. They want to know more. They will do anything to understand what The Rock does at home. What does he show you? He shows you his gym. He shows you how hard he hits the weights, right? Because that's what he believes in. He believes in a healthy body or whatnot, right? He shows you that. So if you are Khabib or whoever you are, that's the respectable guy. What is it that makes you respectable? That people want to know. Don't just say, "Oh, I don't talk smack. I don't do this and I don't do." Okay, great. What is it that you do? What do you do? We don't know. This is why you're not selling, right? It's not the character. It's never been about the character. This is where people misjudge the likes of Conor McGregor, right? It's not how he connects with the fans. It's the fact that he connects with the fans. This is what you must understand, right? Yeah, he's playing a heel and he's talking a whole lot of smack and he's doing this. But understand, he is evoking emotion in the audience. Whether you like him or you hate him, he's getting you to feel a certain way. It just so happens that I like it when he does that stuff.
I like it too, homie.
When he does that. Hey, it's genius. It's genius. You know what I mean? I like it when he does it. A whole bunch of you hate it when he does it, especially the fighters. A whole bunch of people hate it when he does it. But understand that he's getting the job done, which is why he is the highest paid mixed martial artist on the planet.
Exactly. And like you said, like if you don't like what he does, then take what he does and flip it to the opposite. So like, for example, if Conor McGregor, he goes and he sits down and he puts his feet up on the table. Disrespect, right? Disrespect right there. He's disrespecting. That's a sign of disrespect. And he's showing you how expensive and good looking his shoes are. I hate that. Yeah, right. So already he didn't even say anything, but he's doing something that's making you react in a certain way. That other people like Voodoo and myself, I think it's hilarious, man. I'm like, oh man, I love it. Look, like he's doing something. He's doing something. So take that. If you want to be an honorable guy, take that and flip it. And when you do your face off, bow, do a traditional martial arts bow or something like that. You know what I mean? Like do something, show a sign of respect. Do some kind of whatever. And people go, what was that thing you did? And you say, yes, in the Shaolin Temple, when we show respect, we do whatever. And next thing you know, people are talking about. So if you don't like something that someone does, take it and flip it and say, well, what would the opposite of that be? And then try something like that.
Mm-hmm. And oh, one more thing. Don't try and discredit the other guy. Like Brandon Moreno tried this at the last press conference with Figueiredo. He was like, "What are you doing this for? You doing this for money? You doing this for fame? Hey man, it's none of your business what he's doing it for, right? Why are you trying to soil his performance, right? Just go with the narrative. He wants to be that character, great. Let him be that character. You don't need to tell the audience that he's being a character. We're not stupid. We know he's being a character. You know, what is your response to that character? Because either way, both of you are gonna get in that cage. You're gonna squab. You're gonna fight. You don't need to tell me, oh, he was like, oh, you're being a character, man. Hey, man, you're being a character.
Yeah, everybody. He said everybody knows you. Everybody knows you're a nice guy. You don't have to. Now, what did he say? You're.
He said something ridiculous.
Yeah. He Figueiredo got into his head, man, and made him come out. He made him come out of his good guy babyface character a little bit. Moreno forgot that he was supposed to just be the babyface and let Figueiredo be the bad guy, and then he kind of crossed over, and then kind of messed him up.
That is where the improv will help you folks out there, right? Mm-hmm. That's when the improv will come in and help you. I'm happy you mentioned that improv, Rob, and this is exactly why we brought you on for insights such as that. I know about improv, but it didn't pop into my head to say it. But I'm happy you said it. Improv, man. Look, all you fighters. You're all together in the gym. You're sweating blood, smashing each other's face. Why not take a few minutes of your day to improv together, right? Right? Whatever it is that someone is going to say about your teammate, why don't you say it and have them respond to you? So when they get comfortable doing that, guess what? When they're in front of a mic or at a press conference and Conor McGregor's over there talking smack, they'll be able to respond appropriately rather than, oh, Conor, you're acting, you're faking, man. That's not you, man. You're faking. That's fake. Nobody wants to hear you say that it's fake. What is your response is what we're looking for. Remember, the audience are seeking to be entertained. Are you not entertained? That's not why you are here. Are you not entertained? Give them a flex. Show them what's up. What's good? Let's go.
There you go. I mean, that I couldn't have said it better myself. But obviously, you guys mentioned about connecting, right? So, Voodoo, we'll go with you first. Where can people connect with you on the socials?
Oh man, it's very simple. Very very simple. You go on a Google search engine. You type in Voodoo Maximus, and YouTube will pop up. Instagram will pop up. Facebook page will pop up. Twitter will pop up. And Snapchat will also pop up. I don't do all the other stuff, but I do mess with that. Let's go.
There you go. I'm According to Woods, and you can find me where you can find any According to Woods, what have you. So there's that. At last, but not least, the man with the power, the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, Rob Hooks. Where can they find you on social media?
Little end with a little superstar Billy Graham, huh?
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm Rob Hooks 9. So Rob Hooks, you can see the name right there, and then the number 9. So Rob Hooks with no space, and then 9. I'm on Instagram and I'm on YouTube. Catch me there, and then check out nonviolentselfprotection.com. That is my website where you can check out my self-defense style, nonviolent self-protection, all one word.com.
Before we go, could you give us a little bit about this website and what you're doing with it?
Yeah, it's basically it's a specialized program. It's kind of like an anti-bully program. So it has 3 parts to it. It has the self-defense, actual physical self-defense techniques. Then it has a verbal persuasion element to it. So there was a police officer a long time ago who created this thing called verbal judo. So we use which is a wonderful way of getting people to sort of do what you want them to do without getting into violence. And then the third thing is to self-love. There's a self-love development program that we have. So because the idea is that you can learn all the martial arts techniques in the world, right? But if you don't love yourself enough to use them, they can't help you. You know, how many black belts are there out there that will get beat up by a street tough just because they don't have they don't love themselves enough and find themselves valuable enough to use those techniques to protect themselves. So that's what the nonviolent self-protection is all about. And again, it's about stopping the cycle of violence. So there's minimum necessary. It's Jordan Peterson talking about how, like, for example, if you get into a fight with your wife, it's advisable to make your point and then stop there. Don't keep going, and don't beat a dead horse, because when you wake up in the morning, she's going to be there and she's not going to be happy, and she's going to try to get revenge on you. So the idea is it's only do enough to do the job, and then walk away.
Like it. That definitely. Well, I mean, this would be the emphasis of Mario Yamasaki, but I'm still going to throw this one up. Obviously, your program versus Mario Yamasaki's refereeing, but we love Mario Yamasaki. Maybe others that might be injured because of some of his suspect calling might not, but Mario Yamasaki, shout out to you. But no, Rob, thank you for joining us here. Thank you guys for joining us here at Voodoo in the Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to Voodoo in the Woods on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And you can also find us on bodyslam.net, which you should definitely go ahead and subscribe to bodyslam.net on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and other forms of social media. So thank you guys, and we will see you later this week, because we got a new UFC. So we will see you later this week with more Voodoo in the Woods.